The Tuesday afternoon sun streamed through the large windows of the McDonald's on Sunset Boulevard. The restaurant buzzed with the usual mix of tourists, office workers, and families grabbing quick meals. In the far corner booth, a man in a dark, baseball cap and sunglasses tried to eat his burger in peace. Keanu Reeves had learned over the years that sometimes the best hiding spot was right in plain sight. Most people were too busy with their own lives to notice him in places like this. He pulled his cap lower and took another bite, enjoying the simple pleasure of anonymity. At the counter, Carlos Martinez juggled his wallet while his wife, Linda, tried to keep their 5-year-old daughter, Emma, from wandering off. Emma had been restless all day, talking about strange dreams and asking odd questions that made no sense. She kept mentioning silver people and numbers that sounded like nonsense. "Emma, stay close," Linda called out as she watched their daughter drift toward the dining area. But Emma had already spotted something interesting. The little girl, with dark curls and bright brown eyes, walked straight toward the corner booth. She had that fearless way that only young children possess, completely unaware that most adults would never approach a stranger eating alone. Keanu noticed her coming, but figured she would walk past. Instead, Emma stopped right at his table and stared at him with the intense focus that children sometimes have. "Hi," she said simply. Keanu looked around, expecting to see worried parents rushing over. He could see a couple at the counter who seemed distracted by their order. He gave Emma a gentle smile. "Hello there. Are you here with your mom and dad?" Emma nodded but didn't move away. She tilted her head like she was listening to something he couldn't hear. Then she stepped closer to his booth. "Can I tell you a secret?" she whispered. Keanu glanced toward the counter again. The parents were still busy. He figured he could humor the child for a moment before gently sending her back to her family. "Sure. What's your secret?" Emma leaned in very close, her small hands gripping the edge of his table. When she spoke, her voice was so quiet he had to strain to hear her. "The silver people with no faces told me to find you. They said you would know what to do." Keanu felt a slight chill, but assumed it was just a child's imagination. Kids said strange things all the time. "Silver people? That sounds like an interesting dream." "It wasn't a dream," Emma said seriously. "They showed me things. They said the sky will crack open tomorrow when the sun is highest. They showed me the numbers." She began reciting a string of coordinates with perfect precision. Keanu's blood went cold. Those weren't random numbers. They were the exact coordinates he had accidentally overheard during a film shoot at Edwards Air Force Base 3 months ago. Military personnel had been discussing some kind of classified satellite deployment. Emma continued whispering, her words coming faster now. "They live under our city in a ship that looks like a giant metal flower. It's been sleeping for many grandpa ages, but tomorrow the loud sky sounds will wake it up. They don't want to hurt anyone, but they're scared. They need help." Keanu's hands started to shake. There was no way a 5-year-old could know military coordinates or speak with such specific detail about things that didn't exist, yet everything she said felt terrifyingly real. "Emma, who told you these things? The silver people. They don't have faces like us, but they have big dark eyes. They talk inside my head when I sleep. They showed me their ship. It's beautiful but sad. They've been waiting so long for someone who could hear them." She reached into her small pocket and pulled out a crumpled napkin. Smoothing it out on the table, she showed him a drawing she had made. It was far too sophisticated for a child her age. The sketch showed a complex geometric structure with precise angles and symbols that looked almost like mathematical equations. "This is their ship," Emma explained. "It grows into the ground like roots. They became part of our city while they slept." Keanu stared at the drawing. The design was unlike anything he had ever seen, yet something about it seemed familiar. During that film shoot, he had glimpsed some technical drawings on a table. The shapes had been similar to what Emma had drawn. "Emma, this is very important. Did these silver people say anything else?" The little girl nodded gravely. "They said tomorrow when the metal birds fly high and sing their electric songs, their ship will wake up scared. The ground will shake and people might get hurt. They don't want that to happen." Metal birds singing electric songs. Keanu realized she was describing satellites. The military deployment he had overheard was scheduled for tomorrow at noon. They said to find the kind man who pretends to be other people but has a good heart. They said he would understand because he once helped save the world in movies, so maybe he could help save it for real. Emma looked at him with complete trust and innocence. She had no idea who he was as a celebrity, but somehow she had found exactly the right person. Keanu pulled out his phone with shaking hands. This was insane. He was about to call 911 because a 5-year-old had told him about underground aliens and military satellites, but every instinct he had was screaming that Emma was telling the truth. Emma, I need you to stay right here with me, okay? I'm going to call some people who can help. She nodded and climbed into the booth beside him, completely calm and trusting. As Keanu dialed 911, he caught sight of Emma's parents finally heading toward their table, looking worried. In a few moments, this quiet McDonald's was going to become the center of something much bigger than anyone could imagine. The phone rang once before someone answered. 911, what's your emergency? Keanu looked at Emma, who was coloring on another napkin with a crayon she had found somewhere. She was drawing more complex shapes and symbols, humming softly to herself as if she were just any normal child having a normal day. This is going to sound crazy, Keanu said into the phone, but I think I need to report a potential threat to national security involving extraterrestrial contact. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Emma looked up at him and smiled. They say thank you for listening. Not many grown-ups do. As Keanu tried to explain the situation to the confused 911 operator, he realized that his quiet afternoon had just become the beginning of something that would change everything. 20 minutes after Keanu's strange phone call, 2 black cars pulled up outside the McDonald's. FBI agent Lisa Wong stepped out of the first car, adjusting her dark suit jacket. She had been expecting another celebrity stalking case when the call came in. Hollywood types sometimes got paranoid about fans, but this sounded different. Her partner, Agent Pete Sullivan, walked beside her toward the restaurant entrance. Pete was a big man with gray hair who had seen almost everything in his 20 years with the FBI. But as they entered the McDonald's, even he looked puzzled. So let me get this straight, Pete said quietly. Keanu Reeves calls 911 about a 5-year-old kid who claims to talk to aliens? That's what dispatch said. Could be a hoax, could be someone having a breakdown. We'll figure it out fast enough. Inside the restaurant, they spotted Keanu immediately. He sat in the corner booth with a small Hispanic family. The little girl was drawing on napkins while her parents looked worried and confused. Other customers kept glancing over, some taking pictures with their phones. Lisa approached the table and showed her badge. Mr. Reeves? I'm Agent Wong. This is Agent Sullivan. We got your call. Keanu stood up, looking relieved. Thank you for coming. I know this sounds insane, but you need to hear what Emma has been telling me. Carlos Martinez stood up as well, holding his wife's hand. Officers, we don't understand what's happening. Our daughter has been saying strange things all day. We were just getting lunch when she walked over to this man. It's okay, Lisa said gently. We just want to ask Emma some questions. Is that all right? Linda Martinez nodded nervously. Of course, but she's only 5. Sometimes she makes up stories. Lisa knelt down to Emma's eye level. The little girl looked up from her drawing with bright, curious eyes. She showed no fear of the federal agents. Hi, Emma. I'm Lisa. Can you tell me about the silver people you mentioned? Emma smiled and held up her latest napkin drawing. This one was even more detailed than the first. It showed what looked like a cross-section of underground tunnels with a large circular object embedded in the rock. They live down here. Emma pointed to the drawing. Under our feet. Their ship has been sleeping for a very long time. But tomorrow the loud sounds from the sky will wake it up and scare it. Pete leaned in closer. Despite his skepticism, something about the child's calm certainty made him pay attention. Emma, how do you know about these silver people? They talk to me when I sleep, but not with words like we use. They put pictures and feelings in my head. They're very sad and very scared. Lisa exchanged glances with Pete. The child seemed completely sincere, but what she was describing was impossible. Then Emma did something that made both agents freeze. She began speaking in what sounded like numbers, but the rhythm was strange. 14.7762, 49.3881, depth marker 777 meters, electromagnetic signature delta 997. Pete grabbed his phone and started recording. Those weren't random numbers. They sounded like technical specifications or coordinates. Emma, where did you learn those numbers? Lisa asked carefully. The silver people showed them to me. They said the kind man would know what they mean. Keanu spoke up. Those sound like the coordinates I heard at Edwards Air Force Base. I was filming there 3 months ago and accidentally overheard some military briefing. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She pulled out her own phone and called her supervisor. Sir, we're going to need some backup here, and possibly someone from the science division. While Lisa made her call, Emma continued drawing. This time she was making symbols that looked almost like mathematical equations. Pete watched in amazement as the 5-year-old created complex diagrams that would challenge a college engineering student. Has Emma ever shown interest in math or science before? Pete asked the parents. Carlos shook his head. She can barely count to 20. We don't understand where this is coming from. Linda Martinez looked scared. Is our daughter sick? Is something wrong with her brain? We don't think so, Lisa said, ending her phone call. But we'd like to have a specialist come talk to her, someone who understands these kinds of things. Within an hour, Dr. Helen Park arrived at the McDonald's. She was a thin woman with short black hair who worked for SETI, the organization that searches for signs of alien life. She had been called in when Lisa's supervisor heard about Emma's strange knowledge. Dr. Park sat down across from Emma and studied the drawings spread across the table. Her face grew more serious with each napkin she examined. These symbols, she said quietly to Lisa, some of them match patterns we've detected in deep space radio signals, signals we've never been able to decode. Emma looked up at Dr. Park with interest. You listened to the voices from the stars too? We try to, Dr. Park said gently. Emma, can you tell me more about what the silver people look like? Emma closed her eyes for a moment, as if listening to something only she could hear. When she opened them, she began describing creatures that were tall and thin with large dark eyes and smooth silver skin that seemed to change color like oil on water. They don't have mouths like us, Emma explained. They talk with their minds. They've been alone for so long. Their home star died, and they traveled very far to find a safe place to sleep. Dr. Park was taking notes rapidly. Everything Emma described matched theoretical models of what an advanced alien species might look like. Emma, did they tell you why they chose Earth? They said humans have something special. We feel things very strongly, love and sadness and hope. They lost that ability a long time ago, and they want to learn it again. Pete looked skeptical. You're telling me aliens traveled across space to learn about human emotions? Emma nodded seriously. They're very smart, but they forgot how to be happy. They watched us for many years and saw that even when bad things happen, humans try to help each other. Dr. Park's phone buzzed with a text message. She read it quickly and her face went pale. What is it? Lisa asked. Satellite imagery just confirmed unusual electromagnetic readings at the coordinates Emma mentioned. There's definitely something large underground in that location. The adults all stared at each other in shock. Emma just continued coloring, humming softly to herself. We need to contact the Pentagon, Lisa said. If there really is something down there, and if that military satellite deployment tomorrow could affect it. The silver people don't want to hurt anyone, Emma said, looking up from her drawing. But if their ship wakes up scared, it might cause accidents. They asked me to find help before that happens. Lisa realized they were no longer dealing with a child's imagination. They were potentially facing humanity's first real contact with alien life, and they had less than 18 hours to figure out what to do about it. The McDonald's had been cleared of other customers within 2 hours. Now it looked more like a government command center than a fast food restaurant. Laptops and communication equipment covered several tables, while agents in dark suits talked quietly into their phones. Emma sat in the same corner booth, still drawing pictures and answering questions. She seemed completely comfortable with all the attention, as if talking to FBI agents and scientists was perfectly normal for a 5-year-old. Dr. Roy Chen arrived just as the sun was setting. He was a physicist who studied how the human brain worked, especially the parts that most people didn't understand. The government called him when they needed to figure out things that seemed impossible. "So this is our young translator," Dr. Chen said, sitting down across from Emma. He had kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and spoke in a gentle voice that made people feel safe. Emma looked up from her latest drawing. This one showed what appeared to be a large ship with curved walls and strange glowing sections. "Are you here to help the Silver people too?" "I'm here to try to understand how you can talk to them," Dr. Chen said. "Emma, when did you first start having these dreams?" Emma thought for a moment, tapping her crayon against her lips. "It started after we moved to our new house, maybe 2 months ago. At first it was just pictures in my head when I slept. Pretty. Colors and shapes. Then the Silver people started showing me their home." "Can you tell me about their home?" Emma's face grew sad. "It was beautiful once. They had tall crystal cities and gardens that floated in the air. But their son got sick and started eating everything. The Silver people had to leave in big ships to find new homes." Dr. Chen made notes while Emma talked. Her description was remarkably detailed for a child, and she spoke about advanced concepts like dying stars as if she understood them completely. "How many of them came to Earth?" Dr. Chen asked. "Not many. Maybe 1,000. They were so tired when they got here. They found a good place under our city to sleep and heal. They thought they would only rest for a little while, but the sleep was deeper than they planned." Lisa Wong had been listening from a nearby table. "Emma, why are they waking up now? Why after all this time?" Emma closed her eyes and was quiet for a long moment. When she opened them again, she looked worried. "They're not choosing to wake up. The loud sounds from tomorrow's sky singing will hurt their ship's brain. When something hurts the ship, it wakes up to protect itself." Dr. Park leaned forward. "Sky singing? Do you mean the satellite signals?" "Yes. The metal birds that will fly very high tomorrow will sing songs that cut through the Silver people's dreams. Their ship will think it's being attacked." Dr. Chen felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. "Emma, I think you might have a very special brain. Some people can hear radio waves or feel magnetic fields. Maybe you can hear the aliens' thoughts because your brain works in a way that most people's don't." Emma nodded as if this made perfect sense to her. "My mom says I've always been different. I can tell when people are sad even when they're smiling. Sometimes I know things before they happen." Pete Sullivan had been quiet for most of the evening, but now he spoke up. "Kid, if these aliens have been sleeping under Los Angeles, what happens when they wake up? Are we talking about an earthquake?" "Something like that," Emma said quietly. "Their ship is very big and it grew roots into the ground like a tree. If it wakes up scared and tries to move, it could hurt the city above it." The room went silent. Everyone was thinking about the millions of people living in Los Angeles who had no idea what might be sleeping beneath their feet. Dr. Chen asked the question everyone was afraid to hear the answer to. "Emma, what do the Silver people want? Why did they ask you to find help?" Emma picked up a fresh napkin and began drawing again. This time she drew stick figures, humans and tall, thin shapes that must be the aliens, standing together. They don't want to hurt anyone. They're scared and alone and they miss their home. They've been watching humans for a long time and they think maybe we could be friends. They like how humans take care of each other. But why now? Why didn't they try to contact us before? They were waiting for humans to grow up more, to get smart enough to understand without being too afraid. They thought maybe if they found one human who could hear them, that person could help explain to the others. Agent Wong's phone rang. She stepped away to take the call, returning a few minutes later with a grim expression. That was the Pentagon. They've confirmed the electromagnetic readings. There's definitely a large artificial structure beneath downtown Los Angeles. It's been there for decades, maybe longer. And the satellite deployment tomorrow will create interference patterns directly over that location. Dr. Park looked pale. If Emma is right, and that interference wakes up their ship. The geological surveys show the structure extends deep into the fault lines. Agent Wong continued. Any significant movement could trigger seismic activity throughout the region. Emma looked around at all the worried adult faces. "You're scared," she said simply. The silver people are scared too, but scared people make bad choices sometimes. Dr. Chen leaned toward her. "Emma, is there a way to talk to them directly? Can you ask them what they need?" Emma closed her eyes again. This time, she was quiet for several minutes. The adults watched nervously as the little girl seemed to have a conversation with voices only she could hear. When she opened her eyes, tears were running down her cheeks. "They're so tired," she whispered. "They've been alone for so long. They don't know if humans will accept them or try to hurt them. They want to go home, but they can't. Their home is gone forever." "What do they need, Emma?" Dr. Chen asked gently. "They need to know they're safe. They need friends. And they need help fixing their ship so it won't hurt anyone when it wakes up." Emma wiped her eyes and looked directly at Keanu, who had been sitting quietly through most of the questioning. "They picked you to find first because you pretend to be a hero in movies, but you're really a hero inside too. They can feel that about people. They said humans are the first species they've met who can be both smart and kind at the same time." Keanu felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Somehow, a 5-year-old girl in a group of alien refugees had chosen him to be humanity's representative in what could be the most important moment in human history. "What happens next?" he asked. Emma smiled through her tears. "Tomorrow we meet them, if you're brave enough." The night sky over Los Angeles glowed with city lights as military vehicles surrounded the old subway station on 5th Street. It was 3 in the morning, and most of the city slept peacefully, unaware that their world was about to change forever. General Jack Morrison stepped out of an armored truck, his weathered face showing the stress of the past few hours. He had been pulled from his bed at midnight with a briefing that sounded like science fiction. Now, looking at the assembled team of scientists, FBI agents, and one very famous actor holding the hand of a sleepy 5-year-old, he wondered if he was losing his mind. "This is insane," he muttered to Agent Wong. "We're about to abort a $1 million satellite deployment because a little girl says aliens told her to." Lisa Wong understood his frustration. 6 hours ago, she had been investigating what seemed like a simple celebrity stalking case. Now she was part of a first contact team. "The electromagnetic readings don't lie, General. Something big is down there, and it's been there for decades. If the child is right about the satellite interference—" "I know what the readings say," General Morrison interrupted. "But do you understand what we're risking? That satellite deployment is part of our national defense system. If we abort it now, we'll have to wait 6 months for the next window." Emma tugged on Keanu's hand. She had been quiet during the drive from McDonald's, but now she looked worried. "The silver people are getting restless," she whispered. "They can feel all the metal machines and angry thoughts above them. They're scared that humans are planning to hurt them." Dr. Chen knelt down beside Emma. "Can you tell them we're here to help? That we want to meet them peacefully?" Emma closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded. "I told them, but they're still afraid. They've heard stories about what happens when different groups of people meet for the first time. Sometimes it doesn't go well." Commander Sarah Blake from the Space Force had arrived an hour earlier with a team of specialists. She was a tall woman with short blonde hair who had trained for first contact scenarios, though she had never expected them to involve a child and a movie star. "Emma," Commander Blake said gently, "can you ask the silver people to show us where we can safely enter their ship? We don't want to damage anything or scare them." Emma pointed toward the abandoned subway entrance. "Down there. Follow the old tracks until they end. There's a wall that looks like rock, but it's really part of their ship. They'll open it for us if we ask nicely." Dr. Park checked her equipment one more time. She carried sensors that could detect any dangerous radiation or harmful gases. "Emma, is it safe for humans inside their ship?" "Yes. They made the air good for us to breathe. They've been preparing for this meeting for a long time." The team gathered their gear and began the descent into the subway tunnel. Emma walked between Keanu and Dr. Chen, chattering quietly about what they would see. She seemed completely unafraid, treating the whole adventure like an exciting field trip. "The Silver people are very polite," she explained as they walked. "They'll probably want to offer us food, but their food isn't good for humans. Just say thank you and maybe ask for water instead." General Morrison shook his head in amazement. Here was a 5-year-old giving them diplomatic advice for humanity's first alien encounter. The tunnel grew darker as they moved away from the entrance. Their flashlights cast dancing shadows on the old subway walls. After walking for 10 minutes, they reached what appeared to be a dead end. "Here," Emma said, placing her small hand on what looked like solid rock. "This is where their ship begins." The wall began to glow with a soft blue light. Everyone stepped back except Emma, who remained calm and patient. Slowly, silently, a section of the wall became transparent, revealing a corridor beyond that seemed to be made of living metal. "Incredible," Dr. Park whispered. "The material appears to be some kind of biomechanical composite. It's grown into the surrounding rock structure." Emma walked through the opening first, turning back to wave at the adults. "Come on, they're waiting for us." The corridor beyond was beautiful in a way that none of them had expected. The walls curved smoothly and pulsed with gentle patterns of light. The air smelled clean and fresh with a hint of something like flowers. "It's warm," Commander Blake observed, "and the gravity feels normal." "They adjusted everything to make humans comfortable," Emma explained. "They want us to feel welcome." As they walked deeper into the ship, the corridors opened into larger spaces. They saw rooms filled with what might have been art or maybe scientific instruments. Everything had an organic, flowing design that seemed to blend technology with nature. "How many of them are there?" Agent Wong asked. Emma paused and seemed to listen to invisible voices. "Not as many as there used to be. The long sleep was hard on them. Some of them didn't wake up." The sadness in her voice made the adults realize that these weren't just aliens they were meeting. They were refugees who had lost friends and family during their long journey. Finally, they entered a large circular room with a domed ceiling that showed what looked like stars. In the center of the room, several tall figures waited for them. The Cathara were exactly as Emma had described them. They stood about 7 feet tall with smooth silver skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Their large dark eyes reflected the starlight from above, and they moved with a graceful flowing motion that was almost hypnotic. One of them stepped forward, and Emma ran to meet it. The alien placed a long, delicate hand on the child's head, and both of them seemed to glow slightly. "This is their leader," Emma announced. "His name is hard to say with human words, but it means something like keeper of distant memories. He's very old and very wise." The alien leader looked at each of the humans in turn. When his gaze met Keanu's, the actor felt a wave of emotion that wasn't his own. Sadness, hope, fear, and longing all mixed together. "He says thank you for coming," Emma translated. "He says humans are braver than they expected. Most species run away when they first meet the Cathara." Dr. Chen stepped forward carefully. "Can you tell him we're honored to meet them? That we want to understand and help if we can?" Emma spoke silently with the alien leader for several minutes. The conversation seemed to involve more than words, as both the child and the alien showed different expressions during their exchange. "He wants to know if humans are ready to learn about other worlds," Emma finally said. "And he wants to know if we can help them fix their ship so they won't accidentally hurt anyone tomorrow." General Morrison found himself faced with a decision that would affect all of humanity. "Tell him we'll try, but first, we need to understand what kind of help they need." Emma smiled and turned back to the alien leader. The real conversation was just beginning. The alien leader gestured toward the starry ceiling, and suddenly the room filled with images that seemed to float in the air around them. Emma clapped her hands in delight, but the adults stared in amazement as 3-dimensional pictures told a story that was both beautiful and heartbreaking. "He's showing us their history," Emma explained, watching the images with wide eyes. "Look, that's their homeworld." The pictures showed a planet with purple skies and crystal cities that sparkled like diamonds. Tall, graceful beings moved through, floating gardens and buildings that seemed to grow rather than being built. It was a world of incredible beauty and advanced technology. "It's magnificent," Dr. Park whispered, trying to record everything with her equipment. But then the images changed. The star that warmed their world began to grow larger and redder. The crystal cities started to crack and fall. The floating gardens withered and died. The Kythera worked desperately to save their civilization, but their dying sun consumed everything they had built over thousands of years. "That's so sad," Emma said, tears forming in her eyes. They had to leave everyone and everything they loved. The images showed great ships launching into space, carrying the survivors away from their dying world. Most of the ships went in different directions, seeking new homes among the stars. The ship beneath Los Angeles was just one of many, and its passengers had no idea if any of their people had survived elsewhere. "How long ago did this happen?" Commander Blake asked. Emma listened to the alien leader's response. "A very long time. Before humans built cities. Before humans learned to make fire even." The floating images changed again, showing the long journey through space. The Kythera had traveled for centuries searching for a suitable world. When they finally reached Earth, they found a young planet with primitive life forms that showed promise. "They could have taken over," Emma translated. "They were much more advanced than early humans, but they decided to wait and watch instead." The images showed the Kythera observing human development from a distance. They watched as humans discovered fire, built the first cities, created art and music, and slowly developed technology. Throughout it all, the aliens remained hidden, studying and learning. "Why didn't they make contact sooner?" Dr. Chen asked. The alien leader communicated silently with Emma for several minutes. When she turned back to the humans, her expression was serious. They tried to contact other species before, on other worlds. Sometimes it went very badly. Some species became too afraid and tried to destroy them. Others became dependent on their technology and stopped learning for themselves. They wanted to wait until humans were ready to meet them as equals. General Morrison stepped forward. "What changed? Why now?" Emma looked sad again. "They're dying. The long sleep was supposed to heal them, but it hurt them instead. Their bodies aren't working right anymore. They need help from humans to survive." The floating images showed the Kythera's advanced medical technology, their understanding of genetics and biology that was far beyond human knowledge. But it also showed their bodies slowly failing after the long stasis period. "What kind of help do they need?" Dr. Park asked. The alien leader gestured and new images appeared. These showed human DNA alongside Kythera genetic patterns. The images highlighted certain sequences that seemed to be missing or damaged in the alien genetic code. "They need what humans have," Emma explained. "Not our technology or our knowledge. They need our feelings, our emotions, our ability to connect with each other. They had that once, but they lost it during their long journey." Dr. Chen was fascinated. "Are you saying they need an emotional connection with humans to survive?" Emma nodded. "Their minds and bodies work together differently than ours. When they lost the ability to feel joy and hope and love, their bodies started forgetting how to stay healthy. They think maybe if they can learn from humans, they can remember how to feel again." The implications were staggering. Here was an advanced alien species that possessed incredible technology, but they needed humanity's emotional intelligence to survive. Commander Blake's radio crackled to life. "Commander, this is base. The satellite launches in 6 hours. We need a decision soon." The alien leader seemed to understand the urgency without translation. He moved to what appeared to be a control panel that flowed out of the living walls. Touching it with his long fingers, he brought up new images that showed the ship's current condition. "The ship's brain is very sensitive right now," Emma explained as she watched the alien work. "The satellite signals tomorrow will feel like someone screaming in its ears. It will wake up in panic and try to escape." The images showed potential damage patterns extending throughout Los Angeles. If the ship attempted to move while its route, systems were embedded in the city's foundation. The resulting seismic activity could cause massive destruction. "Can they move the ship safely?" Agent Wong asked. Emma shook her head after consulting with the alien leader. Not quickly enough. The roots go too deep and connect to too many things. It would take months to disconnect safely. Then what's the solution? General Morrison demanded. The alien leader touched Emma's forehead gently and she closed her eyes. For several minutes, they seemed to have an intense, silent conversation. When Emma opened her eyes, she looked directly at Keanu. They have technology that could help both species, she said. Medical devices that could cure human diseases. Energy sources that don't hurt the environment. Ways to grow food that would feed everyone on Earth. But they can only share these things if they survive. What do they propose? Keanu asked. A partnership. Humans help them learn to feel again, and they share their knowledge to help humans grow. But it has to be built on trust, not fear. The alien leader activated another display, this one showing detailed plans for integrating Cathara technology with human infrastructure. The fusion wouldn't just prevent tomorrow's disaster, it would revolutionize human civilization. The ship doesn't have to move, Emma continued. It can stay where it is and become part of the city, like a bridge between two worlds. Dr. Park was studying the technical displays with amazement. The energy output alone could power half of California without any pollution, and these medical applications. But General Morrison looked skeptical. How do we know they're telling the truth? How do we know this isn't some kind of invasion disguised as a rescue mission? Emma walked over to the general and took his hand. Immediately, his expression changed. He gasped and staggered slightly, overwhelmed by a flood of alien emotions and memories. They can't lie when they touch, Emma explained simply. Their minds are too open. That's why they need to learn from humans how to protect their feelings. General Morrison straightened up, his face pale, but determined. Agent Wong, get me a direct line to the Pentagon. We're calling off that satellite launch. The alien leader seemed to glow brighter and Emma smiled. He says thank you. And he says this is just the beginning. The Pentagon Situation Room buzzed with activity at dawn. Military officials, scientists, and government leaders had been called in for an emergency meeting that would determine the future of human civilization. On the main screen, General Morrison appeared via video link from the alien ship beneath Los Angeles. Sir, I understand how this sounds, General Morrison said to the Secretary of Defense, but I've seen their technology with my own eyes. I've felt their thoughts. These beings aren't invaders. They're refugees who could help solve many of our world's problems. Secretary William Hayes looked exhausted. He had been awakened at 4 a.m. with reports that seemed like science fiction. General, you're asking me to cancel a critical defense deployment based on the word of a 5-year-old child and her alleged alien friends. I'm asking you to trust the evidence, sir. The electromagnetic readings, the technology we've witnessed, the peaceful intentions they've demonstrated. If we proceed with the satellite launch, we could cause a disaster that kills thousands of people in Los Angeles. In the underground ship, Emma sat quietly beside the alien leader, her small hand in his long silver fingers. She looked tired from serving as a translator for hours, but she remained focused on the conversation happening far above them. The scared men in the big building don't want to listen, she told the alien leader. They think you might trick them. The alien leader's large dark eyes showed sadness. Through Emma, he had learned much about human nature in the past few hours. He understood their fear, but he also saw their potential for greatness. Dr. Chen knelt beside Emma. Can you ask him if there's anything else he can show them? Some way to prove their intentions? Emma was quiet for a moment, then smiled. He says actions speak louder than words. He wants to help humans right now before any agreements are made. The alien leader moved to his control panel and began touching symbols that glowed under his fingers. Suddenly, screens throughout the ship showed images from around the world. Hospitals, laboratories, and research centers appeared on the displays. What's he doing? Commander Blake asked. Helping, Emma said simply. At Children's Hospital in Boston, Dr. Maria Santos was working the night shift when her computer screens began displaying information she had never seen before. Detailed genetic maps and treatment protocols for childhood leukemia appeared, showing techniques that were decades beyond current medical knowledge. In Tokyo, earthquake sensors detected unusual energy patterns beneath the city. But instead of the devastating quake that seismologists expected, the readings showed the Earth's crust was somehow being stabilized, preventing a disaster that could have killed thousands. At research facilities around the globe, scientists stared in amazement as their computers received data about clean energy, sustainable agriculture, and environmental restoration. The information was clearly from an advanced intelligence, and it was being shared freely without any conditions. Back in the Pentagon, reports were flooding in from around the world. The Secretary of Defense watched the incoming data with growing amazement. "Sir," an aide reported, "we're getting confirmation from 12 countries. Someone or something is providing advanced scientific data to medical centers and research facilities worldwide. The Boston Children's Hospital says they just received a complete cure for 3 types of cancer." Secretary Hayes stared at the reports. "Are you telling me the aliens are giving away technology without asking for anything in return?" General Morrison's voice came through the speakers. "That's exactly what they're doing, sir. They want to prove their good intentions before we make any decisions about cooperation." In Los Angeles, news crews had begun gathering outside the subway entrance despite government attempts to keep the situation quiet. Keanu realized that the story would break soon, whether the government wanted it to or not. "Emma," he said gently, "if this becomes public knowledge, people are going to be scared. Some might want to hurt your silver friends. Are you ready for that?" Emma looked up at him with wise eyes that seemed too old for her 5-year-old face. "Scared people do scary things sometimes, but brave people help scared people feel better. That's what makes humans special." She stood up and walked to the alien leader, speaking to him in their silent way. After a few minutes, she returned to Keanu with a determined expression. "He says it's time to trust humans with the truth. All humans, not just the important ones, in the big buildings." The alien leader activated another control, and suddenly every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth began broadcasting the same message. It was Emma's voice speaking clearly and calmly to the world. "Hello everyone, my name is Emma Martinez, and I'm 5 years old. I want to tell you about my friends who come from far away among the stars. They're called the Kithara, and they're very nice. They don't want to hurt anyone. They just want to be friends and help make the world better." Around the globe, people stopped what they were doing to listen to the child's voice. In homes, offices, schools, and public spaces, humans heard the story of the alien refugees and their offer of friendship and knowledge. "The silver people have been hiding under our city because they were scared we might not like them," Emma continued. "But they have amazing things to share with us. Medicine that can fix sick people, ways to make clean energy, and methods to grow enough food for everyone. All they want in return is to learn from us how to be happy again." The broadcast showed images from inside the alien ship, with Emma walking hand in hand with the towering Kithara leader. The footage was impossible to fake, and Emma's innocent sincerity was completely convincing. In the Pentagon, Secretary Hayes made his decision. Cancel the satellite deployment. Open communications with the Los Angeles team. We're going to try this their way. Over the following weeks, the world changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Kithara shared their technology freely, solving problems that had plagued humanity for generations. In return, humans taught them about emotions, art, music, and the connections that made life meaningful. Emma became the first official human Kithara cultural ambassador, with Keanu as her mentor and protector. Together, they helped establish the first integrated communities where humans and aliens lived and worked side by side. The former McDonald's where it all began was turned into the Museum of First Contact, with a bronze statue of Emma and the Kithara leader in the parking lot. The inscription read, "Sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages." On Emma's 6th birthday, she stood in a classroom unlike any other on Earth. Human and Kithara children learned together, sharing knowledge and friendship that would shape the future of both species. When asked by a reporter what she wanted to be when she grew up, Emma smiled with the same innocent wisdom she had shown that day in McDonald's. "I want to help people understand that being different doesn't mean being scary. The universe is very big and full of friends we haven't met yet." The stars no longer seemed distant and cold. They were filled with possibilities for friendship, discovery, and the kind of hope that only comes when different peoples choose trust over fear. Humanity had taken its first real step toward becoming a truly spacefaring civilization, not through conquest or technology alone, but through the simple courage of a child who saw aliens not as invaders, but as friends who needed help.